X, and YouTube.
Sorry, Kitty. You were getting into the song, so I had to put your dance moves on there. You're a pretty good dancer. Better than the Trump double BJ thing. All right. So welcome to the Punch Show. Hope you're doing well today. Today, I did not, you'll notice intentionally, I did not link the slide deck that I'll be using. And that is for a good reason. That's because I have launched a website, and I'm going to be developing this a lot more in the near future. But all of the dashboard, I'm going to go and backfill all this. But this is what it looks. This is what the Punch Show. If you go to machinepunkelly.com and then just click on the Punch Show, it'll bring you to this page. And then it'll go through. You can scroll down. You can look at all the different Punch Shows that I've done, all the episodes. And for each one, it'll have a link to the slide deck or to the dashboards that I used to use. And then in those slide decks and dashboards, you'll usually find links to the source material. So if you want to dive deeper into those things, you can do that. So if you just go to the punchshow.com, or if you go to the machinepunkelly.com, and then you just click on Define Trump there, then you will get to the slideshow that I used for today's episode. So nifty king cool, right? So anyway, how's everybody doing? Not much of an everybody here yet. So you want to, how are you doing, Kitty? She's doing okay. She's on mute. All right. So today I got to thinking, is Trump a Republican? He's always calling people rhinos, but is he a Republican? Is he a conservative? Is he an authoritarian? Like, it seems like no matter what description you use for him, he doesn't really fit any of the typical models. Exactly. So I got to wondering, like, how would you define Trump? And so I made this deck, which, as I just showed you how you can get to it. Defining Trump. Is he a Republican, a rhino, or something else? A rhino, for those that don't know, I think most of us know, a rhino is something called a Republican in name only. So let's go through this and we'll talk and we'll see. The vocabulary problem. Why no single word quite fits, and why that matters. Conservative. Is he a conservative? Well, it clashes with the free trade, like the tariffs are not free trade. They're the opposite of free trade. Hang on a second. I just realized I got my camera all fuzzy. All right, so is he a conservative? He's not really a conservative. In some ways, he's a conservative, but in many ways, he's not. It clashes with free trade, fiscal restraint, and rule of law. Like definitely with rule of law, right? Like they love to talk about the rule of law with Donald Trump, but Donald Trump and the rule of law are pretty close to opposites. Is he a Republican? Well, he's not a John McCain Republican, that's for sure, and he'll tell you that. Has he changed what Republican means? Like, here's a question for you that, we'll see if was Hitler a Nazi? If you think about, like, he wasn't just a Nazi, he was Nazism. Like, when you think Nazi, you think Adolf Hitler, and you'll have people sit there and they'll go, National Socialist Party, that's what it is. And so they'll try and prove that Donald Trump or that Adolf Hitler was a socialist because he was a Nazi. But the Nazi was a little tiny party that he took over and redefined. So by the time he took over the Nazi party and he defined what the Nazi party was, it was no longer the Nazi party the way that the Nazi party started. Hey, Dave, how you doing? I've got some work for you. No, I'm just kidding. Dave, the dishwasher, is on here. He says hi. I have dishes that need to be washed. We've had a plumbing issue at our house, so we're waiting for the plumber to come over. So you wouldn't be able to wash them even if you were here. So he's not a conservative. Is he a Republican? It depends on what you mean by Republican. Is he a Republican by what we mean Republican now, or is he Republican by what we mean Republican before he took over the party? Is he an authoritarian? In a lot of ways he is, but in some ways he's not. It's probably the most empirically accurate, but Americans resist the word, and there's a few ways where maybe he's not as authoritarian as he would like to be. The packaging is new. The underlying political pathology is ancient. So is he a conservative? Let's talk about this some more. He's against free trade, which is against traditional conservatism. He's against fiscal restraint, like he's jacking up the debt, right? He's against the rule of law and institutional deference. He's actually nobody. I would say that as much as Republicans traditionally have been anti-big government, he has been the most big government president in my lifetime. Like, nobody has tried to do as much big government as Donald Trump does, depending on what you mean by big government. If you talk about big government the way that we usually mean big government, the big government being, like trying to take over the media, trying to take over, states, violate federalism, all of that kind of stuff, nobody has done anything close to what Donald Trump is trying to do. International alliances, definitely not a traditional conservative. The only alliances he wants are with other authoritarians. Skepticism of executive power. Traditionally, Republicans, at least on the surface, have been trying to limit executive power, even though, realistically and historically they haven't. But at least they tried to pretend they were skeptical of executive power. Trump fails all of these definitions. In some ways, though, he is a traditional conservative. He's against immigration, or he's for immigration restriction. He's a nationalist. He's anti-LGBTQ plus. He's got his Christian nationalist themes. He's got traditional social hierarchies. He definitely, like, when he talks about make America great again, the thing that keeps coming to me is when he talks about again, when is what era of American history does he think that America was great in? And you watch what he says, what he does, and it seems like he wants to go back to the Industrial Revolution. What, like, the most extreme time in American history in terms of the difference between the wealthy and the poor. And that's when you had social Darwinism come to light. I don't know if you've ever heard of social Darwinism, but this is an interesting thing. If you ever study Darwinism, the actual science of Darwin, Charles Darwin, never won out on its own. It won out with, I think the guy's name was Sinclair something or other. Anyway, I'll look it up. Who came up with social Darwinism? What was his name? Herbert Spencer. I'm sorry, not Sinclair. Herbert Spencer. You ever heard of Herbert Spencer? He was a guy that came up with this idea of social Darwinism, and he borrowed off of Charles Darwin, and he said that the evolution of mankind is just like evolution, and the reason that rich people are rich is they have better genes, they have better stock, so to speak. They have evolved more, and so it's not bad that the rich people are rich and the poor people are poor. They're just more evolved, so they deserve more wealth. And so then that became popular during the Industrial Revolution because unions were also becoming popular, and this was a way to justify the poor and middle class being held down by the elite. And it's always funny because when people talk about when Donald Trump talks about the elites and elitism and all of that, he is the elite. Like, he's talking about Barack Obama, who grew up largely poor. I mean, eventually his grandparents adopted him and they were at least middle class. But Barack Obama spent time on food stamps when he was a kid. Bill Clinton spent time on food stamps when he was a kid. Bill Clinton literally grew up in a trailer at times. Like, these were people that grew up poor. They eventually did pull themselves by their bootstraps. But somehow the Republicans see them as the elites and Donald Trump as being this self-made man who only inherited $600 million from his dad. And really has never accomplished a single thing other than selling his name. So, anyway, this idea that the elites are evolved, like he pushes this narrative that he's got great genes, right? Like he feels like he is genetically superior and therefore deserves everything that he has. Okay, we got some. Trump is a Russian sympathizer. That's a nice way to put it. I think the word asset might fit too. I have the whole day off in the kitchen. I mounted a canvas oil painting of Danny DeVito hugging rum ham. Brett, I have a story for you. My mother-in-law used to live across the street from a guy who was Danny DeVito's uncle. And that's all he could talk about was his nephew. And he went to, what's his name? I can't remember the guy's name. From Taxi, Joey, the character Joey. He had the mom, or where he was the maid of the house or whatever. Anyway, he went to that guy's wedding. Danny DeVito invited him. All he would talk about is Danny DeVito. He was a nice guy, but he was sitting there showing me pictures of the wedding and everything. Hi, on my other screen, Trump is about to speak at the Black History Month receptions. Oh my goodness, that's going to go well. So that is going to be awkward, extremely. Placing bets, he talks about Biden or 20 elections. I don't think anybody's taken those bets. More white people there than black. What's going on? Hang on a second. Yeah. So interesting. Think we might have overblocked. Kitty, we're not getting any comments at all. Maybe we finally just scared off all the mean people. All right, so very calm right now. Donald Trump is he a conservative? It all depends on how you're talking about conservatism. I don't think most traditional conservatives would call him a conservative. Is he a Republican or a rhino? Rhino was originally coined to describe people who didn't govern as conservatives, which goes back to, is he a conservative, right? But that by that original definition, Trump is arguably the most powerful rhino in party history: protectionist, deficit expanding, institutionally hostile, and ideologically inconsistent. Trump is the Republican Party. Like by just based on how the Republican Party is currently functioning, by electoral dominance. Right now, Trump is not just a Republican, he defines Republicanism. If he says somebody, I don't care how, right-wing somebody is, how committed to Republican they are. The moment he turns against you, you are no longer considered a Republican. Not that I have any sympathy for Marjorie Taylor Greene, but if what happened to her isn't an indication that what defines you as a Republican right now is how much you adhere to Donald Trump, that should do it. The one time that she opposed him, and on a thing that actually she was, I don't know how often or if ever again I will say these three words about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she was right. And another three words, she was consistent. She came to fame because QAnon, right? She was the QAnon girl. She was QAnon. And they all talked, and I remember watching the news and can this QAnon person be, the Republican winner in Georgia and stuff? Because that was like QAnon was nut job back then. Now it's mainstreamed and platform, but the whole thing about the QAnon movement was that there was these child neglect and abuse going on and sex abuse and stuff like that. So it's an easy transition for somebody like her to go from QAnon to, Epstein files conspiracies. Only with Epstein, it's not conspiracies. I mean, well, it's conspiracy, but it's a real conspiracy instead of a fake conspiracy. So I think that there was genuine concern she had for those women. And, it's easy enough to just define everybody as all right or all wrong. But I think with MTG, She is a person that actually thinks that pedophilia is wrong. You know, I mean, doesn't make her a champion of humanity or anything, but she's stuck to those guns. And if you watch the interviews and the press conferences with her and the victims really felt like she was with them. You know, they felt like she was a champion for them, and she didn't back down. And I give her credit. She like literally got called to the war room, and she stuck to her guns. She was like, no, I'm not backing down. I mean this. And she got out of Congress before she would capitulate to Donald Trump. And now, you know, she's trying to respin her narrative and all that. I'd say go apologize to David Hogg if you want me to like reconsider you. But I'll give her credit. At least she stood up for the victims. There is a lot wrong with MTG, but at least she stood up for the victims. And that one thing was enough to remove her from the Republican Party. That's how Republican Donald Trump is. Like right now, you are a Republican if you align yourself with Donald Trump on every single thing. Even Epstein. If you don't align yourself with Epstein, you're no longer a Republican. Which is kind of sick and twisted and morbid, if you ask me. By historical principles, Republicans were all for limited government, free trade, rule of law. He is definitely not for limited government. He's sitting there, he's using the DOJ like nobody else has ever done. Free trade, the tariffs are the exact opposite of free trade. He's sitting there trying to renegotiate every single trade agreement there is, like literally, with the entire world, and ineptly at that. Rule of law, he's a 34-time convicted felon who stole classified secrets and tried to overthrow the government. And now he's trying to prosecute the people that tried to prosecute him for committing the crimes that he committed. Like, you cannot get further removed from rule of law than Donald Trump. By these metrics, he's a poor fit, and the actual rhinos are people like Romney and Kissinger. Or, not Kinzinger. Got my Kinzinger and my Kissinger mixed up. Like, the people that were traditional Republicans are now rhinos. And the people that follow Trump are now Republicans. The Republican Party changed to fit Trump, not the other way around. Rhino is now a loyalty test, not an ideological one. That itself is authoritarianism. And so, like, I bring you back, like I mentioned before. Adolf Hitler took over the Nazi Party and just redefined what the Nazi Party is. When people talk about being a Nazi and they say the National Socialist stuff, and they try to make it seem like that made Donald Trump or made Adolf Hitler a socialist. That doesn't make socialism had nothing to do with Hitler. I mean, the poem originally started with first they came for the socialists. It got readjusted later on to say first they came for the communists, then they came for the socialists. But either way, Hitler came for the socialists. He persecuted socialists. Adolf Hitler was not a socialist. He wasn't a Nazi based on the original platform of what the Nazi Party was. He took over and redefined what being a Nazi meant. In that sense, Donald Trump is a Republican. He's not somebody that fit the Republican mold and then ran as a Republican and won as a Republican. He just redefined Republicanism. And now the definition of a Republican is strictly 100%. How much do you agree with Donald Trump? Which, by definition, makes him more authoritarian than Republican. So we got some comments. Let me ask you a question. Ask you a question. The Republicans tried to get some issues passed. What are the Democrats? What are the Democrats to help me out here? What if it's any good? That what are they trying to do? Do you think stopping ICE? I'm trying to understand the question. What are the Democrats do? Help me out here. What it's any good? What are they trying to do? So you're asking, what are the Democrats trying to do? Do you think stopping ICE is a good thing? Yeah, I think stopping ICE is a good thing, and I think what they're trying to do is to stop ICE. I don't understand, you know. I don't understand why even that's a question. Obviously, ICE is murdering American citizens on the city streets of Minneapolis. That's not a good thing. So, yeah, I think that what the Democrats are trying to do is a good thing. I think that the ICE is not doing what it was intended to when it was created. I think that the whole anti-immigrant platform is beyond what Trump is doing. People say, "Oh, I voted for this. I voted for this." Yeah, no. You didn't vote for that because Donald Trump did not run on that. Donald Trump ran on getting the worst of the worst. He did not run on tackling mothers that were dropping their kids off from school. If you can show me the campaign ads where he was promising to do that, then fine, I will say you voted for that. But he did not run on that, so you did not vote for that. This is just what I mean when I say Republicanism now is just defining yourself by Trump. You're saying you voted for that, even though Trump denied that's what he was going to do, because that is what Trump is doing. Or was that the other one? I don't. Did you see the about Project Saltbox? I don't. I'm sorry, Brett. I don't. What is Project Saltbox? What is? I'm very confused. I don't know what. I didn't see any comments from you, Brett. What society did Ghislaine Maxwell say she was part of during her arrest? I have no idea. Do you know, Patsy? No? No, I don't know. Conspiracies. Alex Jones was right about what? What was Alex Jones? Was he right about the frogs? Was he right about, the Columbine? Oh, so that was Lizzie or Patsy's. That was Kitty's video. Moderation levels may be too tight. Another Alex Jones factoid. Yeah, there's Alex Jones factoid is like a oxymoron. It would be sick and twisted and morbid if this wasn't the obvious direction of the Republican Party since the 70s. And that's why I say there's some, like, I don't know if you were here when I said this, but like at least some of them pretended, to be for what they said. With Donald Trump, the pretext has gone all out of the way. But yeah, there was hero worship with Reagan and Bush 1. There was hero worship with Bush 2. I mean, there was definitely that. But this has gotten, like, Trump's taken it to another level. Kissinger is in hell. He's chatting with Charlie Kirk and Rush Limbaugh. With Margaret Thatcher and Dick, there too. Dick Cheney is the first person in history that had a heart plant. People would say he had a heart transplant. And I was like, no, he had a heart plant. Have to have a heart to replace. Anti-immigration is always a front. It's the oldest lie. It's like you want to really piss off a Trump supporter? Tell them that immigration is good for America. Republicans have been inculcating authoritism for decades. And they do the same thing that they've always done. He was right about September 11th. Who was right about? Oh, Alex Jones. What did he say about September 11th? Was there like a group of people? Was there? Was he right about Columbine? I mean, I'm not gonna like. It's not like he was this island in the ocean that was talking about glyphosate being bad. I think most people know that. He might as well say the sun rises. I don't know what he said about 9/11, but several other accounts who usually get bots are also not getting them today. Maybe YouTube did something to clean up the bots. Preach it, son. Thank you. I don't know what that is. Was he right about Columbine, Skippy? I mean, like, seriously, you're going to sit there and advocate for the fierce rightness of Alex Jones, really? You want to, how many times has he lied, Skippy? What's your email so I can send you proof so I don't, you can, I just, by the way, since we've got a few people here that we didn't have, I have a website now, machinepunkelly.com. And if you send an email to mpk@machinepunkelly.com, that will get to me, Skippy. It's an easy one to remember. So MPK is for Machine Pun Kelly. But yeah, I got a website, machinepunkelly.com. Happy Wednesday. I think the things that, like, saying that the sun is going to rise tomorrow doesn't negate saying that Columbine is fake. Like, he lost in court over that. Egregious conspiracy theories. Oh, I know what the problem. YouTube is mostly down. Down Detector and several other major sites are struggling because there is a cloud. Oh, that's what's going on. Okay, so sorry, I don't know if I was supposed to read those out loud, but apparently there's some kind of issue going on with Cloudflare that's affecting streams. But in the meantime, we actually get real conversation with people from both sides without being inundated by bots. So Skippy, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, if you want to say he's right about right about 5% of the time, that's like acting like the psychic is actually psychic. Because they, out of 100, 100 predictions, one of them comes true. Last night YouTube was inaccessible. Yeah, it's been a weird day for YouTube. Trump is most definitely the rhino. Unless you go by what today's Republican is, in which case everybody that's not Trump is a rhino. He calls everybody else a rhino. Is he an authoritarian? This one seems a little more obvious, right? He's rejected. Got to get rid of this. Is he an authoritarian? He's rejected the legitimacy of political opponents. No question about that, right? He's encouraged or tolerated violence among supporters. Like, literally in rallies, he's said, beat the crap out of them, I'll pay for your lawsuit. Attacked independent media and judiciary, both just through his speeches and through now the DOJ. He's weaponized state institutions against rivals and the media. He's refused to accept electoral defeat and incited January 6th. And so some people Some people, like, they'll look at January 6th and they'll say, well, it failed, or, you know, if you say he's an authoritarian because of things like January 6th, some people will say, well, that didn't work, as though it working is necessary for him to be an authoritarian. Or, you know, like, the courts are stopping him and these authoritarian tendencies that are going on, as though what's working makes him an authoritarian. So my view is, you know, a bank robber is a bank robber even if he gets caught. If somebody's not just a bank robber if they get away with robbing the bank. If somebody's robbing a bank and they get arrested while they're robbing the bank, they're still a bank robber. They don't get charged with, you know, trespassing. They get charged with bank robbery. The effectiveness of the attempt doesn't change the classification. January 6th succeeded in delaying, not stopping certification by hours. That changes the outcome, not the intent. The competitive authoritarian framework. Levitsky and Way, How Democracies Die. This is a book that was written on authoritarianism. Competitive authoritarians maintain the surface features of democracy, elections, courts, press, while systemically undermining them from within. This framework was developed for Fujimori, Orban, and Chavez before Trump. He didn't escape the category, he walked into it. Or he didn't inspire the category, he walked into it. So there are people, and I think Orban is the one we're most familiar with, who they get elected and then they carve out a kind of authoritarianism within the democratic framework that they have been elected into. And I think that fits Trump, right? That's what he's doing. He's trying to carve out an authoritarian way to execute his authoritarianism within the United States government. And that's why you see when you see things like, that's a liberal judge. That's just a judge with a liberal agenda. That's a judge that was appointed by a United States president, that was approved by a United States Senate, that has the same legal right to do and decide what they're deciding as any other judge. You don't get to sit there and mealy-mouth your way through which judges are real and which judges aren't. A judge is a judge. That's why we have the system that we have, is so that one person couldn't just say which judges are real and which judges aren't based on whether or not they agreed with them. Trump is definitely not conservative. He is definitely not. Except unless you talk about the social aspects of conservatism. Every accusation from Trump is a confession. An attempted crime is still a crime. I get that. Trump is Israel first. In some ways, I agree, but if you attempt to speed on the highway, you're not actually speeding. If you attempt to rob a bank, like, I don't know how you would, like, what is attempted speeding is like a bit different than attempted bank robbery, because the attempted bank robbery, you're actually pulling out your guns and robbing the bank, and you get caught while you're robbing. Like, you have to start the crime. How do you start speeding without speeding? Although, while I lived in Liberia, the cops would pull Americans over all the time and charge them with bogus stuff. And I have my history teacher, Mr. Young. He actually got a ticket for attempted speeding, believe it or not. He got one for attempted speeding. He also got one for standing between two parked cars. If you Google Projects Saltbox, click on the Substack at the top of the page, there is a map of the U.S. ICE detention facilities being purchased and the locations. Oh, yeah, that's what the soapbox thing is. Yeah, that's Rachel Maddow has been really covering that well. The detentions thing is really scary to me, especially like the way that they're, even when they try congressional oversight, they're trying to deny congressional oversight. You have children that have literally died. They're I think yesterday we were talking about 40 to 50% of the people that are in there are people that are here legally. Trump is a traitor, and that's about the nicest thing I can say about him. Your Orban comments display your ignorance on the rule of majority. Okay, Robert. I found a detention center in New York, a couple of miles from the Lego Museum. It's surrounded by really ominous building names. Interesting. Does I know a lot of places where they've been putting up these detention centers are trying to buy them. Like, is this like one of those warehouses where they're trying to convert it into a detention center? Because even here in Texas, they tried to buy one not far from where I live, and the community was not excited about it. Foolishly, you ignore the Constitution and I'm not ignoring the Constitution and the three branches of government, Robert. Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is the one that is ignoring the three branches of government. I don't think you understand how the three branches of government work. So I will explain it to you, Robert. The three branches of government are the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch writes the laws. The executive branch executes the law, and the judicial branch reviews the laws. When Donald Trump tries to say that this judicial branch are judicial activists because they ruled against him, the judicial branch reviewed the law that he executed and said, no, you can't do that. Or said that's not what Congress meant when they wrote the law. I don't think you understand what the three branches of government are. I don't know what you understand at all, but your statement there just tells me you have not got the foggiest clue what you are talking about, Robert. Come back and talk to me after you've read the Constitution. Okay. This is the same guy that just described Orban as being like some sort of hero or something. I bet you watched Tucker Carlson. I bet you thought when Tucker Carlson went and found those shopping carts and marveled at those modern age shopping carts with the coin operated shopping carts, you were just, wow, such a modern invention. Competitive authoritarians maintain the surface temperature of democracy. Elections, courts, press, while systemically undermining them from within. This framework was developed. Okay, so I already read that. The pattern of authoritarian party capture: identify a politically homeless, economically anxious base, i.e., the Republican Party. The Republican Party was really desperate. You think about all the people that Trump beat, and just think, Trump beat them. That's how desperate they were. Like, who were they going to go with? Ted Cruz? Marco Rubio? Like, they were rudderless. After 2 terms of Obama, they were, and they described it as economic anxiety, which really meant just still in shock that a black man was president. Exploit existing institutional weaknesses, don't create new ones, which is what he's done. redefine party ideology around personal loyalty, not principle. As we've discussed, that's exactly what he's done to the Republican Party. Purge or marginalize anyone representing the old party. See John McCain. See, what's his name? I can't even think of his name right now. The guy that lost in 2012. I don't know why I can't think of his name. Make the leader's will synonymous with the movement's identity. Tell me he's not doing any of that. Right now, the entire Republican Party, like, just to be a Republican means you agree with Trump. Name a Republican, name an actual Republican that disagrees with Trump. As soon as you disagree with Trump, you're not a Republican anymore. Most of the warehouses are own meat packing and slaughterhouses, sterilization, etc. Yeah. And there's like no real plans on how they're going to, fix them. Comrade Carlson. Did you see that interview, Kitty? Or did you see that segment from Tucker Carlson? And he had like you had to put the coin in the cart, and then you could get the cart, and then when you brought the cart back,
I'm like, Aldi's been doing that, I don't know, a gazillion years.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, have you ever been to Aldi's? Like, he's just in awe. And even Tucker Carlson is less extreme than Donald Trump at this point.
He loved Russian McDonald's.
Tucker Carlson seeing a shopping cart for the first time at age 60. It was just like, I will never stop laughing at that. It was such a self-own. Like, nothing says, I am just here to appease Putin more than that. According to Christian Vote, the most transactional relationship in modern American politics. He rallies with Christian nationalist themes, Bible holding photo ops, with the Bible upside down, overturning Roe versus Wade, prayer breakfasts and evangelical summits, claims of being chosen by God. You know what I was thinking about with this is, I don't think I have ever heard Donald Trump say he is a Christian. Let me, at least I don't think. And I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be president. Okay. He said it in 2024. Has he ever? So he's never actually said that Jesus Christ is Lord. He'll say things like the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ forever changed the world. Jesus Christ is the ultimate source of our strength and our hope, and here and everywhere and for all time. That sounds like something somebody else has written for him, but he's never actually claimed that Jesus Christ is Lord. And if you read the Bible, as I have, there is one definitive thing that separates being a Christian and not being a Christian, and that is declaring that Jesus Christ is Lord. That is, without that one thing. And so he's had other people's say that he has for him, he's also said that he doesn't need to confess because he's never done anything wrong. So I do not think that Donald Trump is a Christian. I think that if you are a Christian, you should be worried about his salvation. If you're a Christian, you should be under the impression that Donald Trump will burn in hell right next to Rush Limbaugh and all those other people we talked about. Dick Cheney. Has anyone ever proofread one of the Trump Bibles? Maybe 40 proof. You have to get drunk to read it. Maybe it's like one of those Bibles where you keep the bottle of whiskey in the pages. He is not. No, he's not. He's atheist. He just wants votes. He lied to get them. Besides, religion is a cult. Well, so is MAGA. I think in Trump's religion, Trump is God. So now Resistance Kitty wants to go through and see if he's changed the Bible. He probably replaces God's Jesus. I wonder if he replaced like he's God and then Junior is Jesus. American people themselves can take action when those sworn to serve, when called upon, words fall on deaf ears. The oligarchs have some addresses and bleed the same red blood and are terrified. Well, you better be careful there. You don't want this Secret Service come knocking on your door. When will we need to find a way to get a copy of Another Way? I don't think I would want that. I do know it's kind of anti-biblical to have the Constitution with the Bible. It says not to add to these words. I also know it's anti-constitutional to add the Bible with the Constitution. So so I say MAGA never stops talking about the Bible or the Constitution and never reads either. I have a box full. You have a box full of what? She's going all. I don't know what that means. She's. I'm sorry. All right. So this is, I don't know what that means. What is that? The game where you charades? You were doing charades. I have no idea. I'm at a loss. Thank you for trying. Okay, so American people themselves can take. Oh, we already read that one. Okay. Nope, I'm a die free, buddy. I appreciate your sincerity. I have a box. Okay, so we. Man. Let's go back. What the record shows. He couldn't name a favorite Bible verse. Remember the famous 2 Corinthians gaffe? His favorite book of the Bible was 2 Corinthians. multiple affairs and Access Hollywood. Oh, yeah. And he also slept with a porn star, then paid her off. Rarely attends church, no pastoral relationships. I was, you know who went to church every single week while he was president? I read an editorial about this. There's somebody else that was in the congregation. Every single week he was president. Bill Clinton. Don't know if going to church makes you Christian, but I do find it interesting that he actually did go to church. George Bush never did. George Bush only went there like once or twice. But Bill Clinton did. George W. Bush, you know, he really played the Christian game a lot too, but I don't know if he was one either. Sold Bibles for $60 during his campaign. The relationship is purely transactional. Evangelicals get policy outcomes, judges, Dobbs, religious exemptions. So the religion, and they get all the stuff they, you know, like the Christian right isn't Christian either for the most part. They're Old Testament. You never hear them talk about Jesus. You just hear them talk about abortions and gays and stuff like that. Trump gets votes. Faith is the currency, not the conviction. I call this I call these people Faustian racists. They say they're not racist. I'm like, yeah, you are. You voted for a racist president. You voted for racist policy. And they're like, no, I voted for abortion. And I'm like, no, you voted for racist policies. You just voted for racist policies in exchange for voting for a Republican. You made a deal with the devil. And you wanted abortion to be illegal so bad that you decided that racism was something you would accept in order to get that. It's still racism. Call them Faustian racists. What makes Trump categorically different from historical authoritarians? Other historians, Hitler with Mein Kampf, had a detailed ideological blueprint. Mussolini had a developed fascist philosophy. Orban, even, a constructed framework around a liberal democracy. Result, they had predictable behavior. Their behavior followed an ideology. They had an actual ideology. The problem with Trump is he doesn't have a clearly defined ideology. He does everything he makes it up as he goes along. He flies by the seat of his pants. He's completely incompetent. And he just sells out policy to everybody from Stephen Miller to Steve Bannon. He has no coherent ideological blueprint. Decisions are driven by cable news. Why do you think that Fox News is his cabinet? Because Fox News is where he gets his policy from. Handlers like Bannon, Miller, Musk fill the vacuum with their own agendas. And the result is that it's just scattershot, it's sporadic, there's nothing that makes sense or there's coherent from one day to the next. He's got trade deals he makes one day and breaks the next day. And on top of all that, he's basically, I mean, I know that Trump supporters get mad when you say this, but he's a pretty stupid and ignorant person. And they'll be, oh, what about Joe Biden? What about Joe Biden? Forget about Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't have anything to do with this. Joe Biden doesn't make him any smarter. Donald Trump didn't know how tariffs work. I mean, some of this stuff, you know, like you can say he misspoke when he said that there were airports in the revolution. That he was taken out of context with the whole, bleach thing. But the terrorist thing he kept doubling down on over and over and over again. He insisted that tariffs are paid by other countries. And that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how tariffs work. He is a legitimately ignorant and stupid man. I mean, I'm not saying that as an insult. That's an observation that's provable by his actual words and actions. He's just dumb. So Hannah Arendt talked about the banality of evil. Catastrophic outcomes don't require a mastermind. Trump is the face. Others are the architecture. He doesn't need to understand the plan. He just needs to sign things and hold rallies. So you look at Stephen Miller, is the architect of the immigration plan. And he just spouts things and says things. And you've got, like his minion, Stephen Miller, and the Barbie, whatever her name is, DHS, cosplay Barbie. And they just go out and do evil things. And children are being killed in detention centers, being tortured to get parents to renounce their asylum. Like really genuinely evil things are happening. And Trump is the de facto leader that lets it all happen, but he's just trying to make his billions of dollars and then letting other people run the country. Oh, we got John in here. Kelly, the guy is president and can't run again. So what's the point of all this? Because he's president. What does it matter if he can run again or not? I think everybody is racist. I agree. But not everybody embraces their racism. Some of us actually acknowledge when we have a racist impulse or instinct come up and we reject it. Like it's not whether or not you have a racist thought. It's whether or not you accept that racist thought. Not everybody does. Not everybody accepts that a racist thought means it needs to turn into racist action or racist votes. You don't have to be either. Yeah, he's waiting for he's definitely trying to find a way to run again. But whether he can run again or not, to me, is moot. He's president right now, and he's doing these things right now. People are dying right now as a result of him. We're not talking about a campaign here. Apparently, the world forgot about World War II, so we need to make sure that we keep correct information flowing through these sites that are trying very hard to rewrite history. Yep. That's the whole point of everything. My whole goal is that information, actual factual information flows. The masses are asses. You should make that the name of your garage band, Brett. The masses are asses. Still doesn't know how tariffs. You're right. He still doesn't know. He may know how tariffs work, but he could be willfully ignorant. There's so many ways to grift of the tariff solution. When he went to, there was like some kind of economic forum where it was like everybody there was an economist. Like it was all actual macroeconomists that were at the top of their field, and he was arguing with them. And he's like, tried, I told you so many times on this. He genuinely does not understand how tariffs work. Here's a story about Trump that I think just tells you everything you need to know about him. He was on the Howard Stern show one time along with Eric and Ivanka. And then Howard Stern's like, "Oh, so you guys all went to Wharton, and did you really get into Wharton on merit, or was it all just because you're rich?" And they're all like, "No, we got in there because we're smart." And so he said, "Well, then you should be able to do some basic math, right?" And then he asked them a pretty simple math question. Like, I can't remember what it was, but it was like, what is 16 times 8 or something like that, And he got it in his head. All three of them got it wrong. And the black co-host, her name, I can't think of her name. She had a calculator. She figured it out. And she's like, "No, Howard's right." And Donald Trump kept arguing with the calculator. He's like, "No, this is it. This is it. This is it." And eventually he convinced Howard Stern that he was right. And the calculator was wrong. See, that's Donald Trump in a nutshell. He has a way of convincing people he's right, even when he's wrong, even when it's an objectively provable thing like basic math. He doesn't know things and he doesn't want to learn things. And if you correct him, then he just doubles down. Correct. Almost everybody tends to be racist, but not as what we think it is. Pay close attention to the groups people hang with. It's unintentional, but it happens. Yeah. I've said before, the guy that wrote, I don't know if the guy that wrote Ibram, what's his name? Ibram Kendi. If you ever read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, I think it's even in the first chapter, he says that even he realized he was a racist. You can't grow up in our society and where racism is so ubiquitous. It's in every thread. It's on every show. It's all over the place. It's just laced throughout our culture. So you can't live and be raised in America without having racist tendencies. One second. I'm sorry. I think I have to quit. I'm getting sick right now. Long COVID is having fun with me. See you guys tomorrow.